Ticket Machine is the official ticket broker of Spartan Nation. No matter what you need a ticket for, border to border, coast to coast, the Ticket Machine is your ticket source. So whether you need to get into the hottest concerts, the best sporting events, you want the best seats in the house, or you just want to get in the door, when you want to go to any event that requires a ticket, anywhere, border to border, coast to coast, it's always theticketmachine.com. Theticketmachine.com, 517-655-3201. Check it out today at theticketmachine.com.
Welcome back, Spartan Nation Radio. All excited to have this next guy in. Spartan Nation senior writer Johnny Shop. Coming off the Spartans' 77-70 win over the Michigan Wolverines. They now put their attention ahead to a Saturday matchup in Bloomington at Memorial Coliseum, taking on the Hoosiers of Indiana. 3 games left. If they run the table, they are your Big Ten regular season champs. John Shop, how are you?
I'm pretty good, Hondo. Pretty good. Not quite as good as that Spartan basketball team after that monster effort and monster win. That was definitely one for the ages. If that's not the peak moment for this team, that's a really great sign. There's better things to come. But this one should definitely take at least 24 hours to enjoy. This was a monster win.
I want to ask you this. John, you remember this. A couple of years ago on this radio show, John Wangler, who is a great guy, just a great guy. He is a legendary Michigan quarterback, a Wolverine, and an absolutely terrific person. But on this show, John talked about the Michigan State rivalry, and he said he felt like Michigan downplaying the rivalry hurts them. And he talked about when he played for Bo never downplayed it. You wouldn't have known that Ohio State was a bigger rivalry than Michigan State. And he said he felt like it hurt Michigan that they didn't take it as serious as Michigan State. Here is my question for you, Mr. Shop. Before the game, John Beilein talked about, okay, it's a big game, but no bigger than Minnesota. Last night after the game, he's talking like, hey, it's not the biggest thing in the world. Michigan State acts like this is their only game on the calendar. Does it help Michigan State that they take the Michigan game so serious and so big, and Michigan seems to be like, okay, yeah, it's another game?
I think it does in the basketball, and you got to look at some recent history to kind of even that out. There's no question that the biggest rival during the Izzo era was Wisconsin because of Bo Ryan. Just look at everything they played for him. They played for so much for so long. But when Bo Ryan retired, same kind of time, Michigan basketball was surviving and moving forward, and the game was changing to really their favor, and now they are where they are. So Michigan immediately stepped back in as the Spartans' biggest rival. I don't think there's any question of that. At the same time, early in his tenure, John Beilein, I remember asking him about it on the teleconference calls, really didn't suggest that this game was really that big a deal at all. So if he's still saying that in 2019, that would be a surprise. It does not help Michigan to embrace this because on basketball court, without any question, Michigan State is their top rival. It's not to say that it's a bigger university rival, but these are the two sibling institutions of the great Mitten State. I don't think it helps Michigan to treat this game any differently. I do think it helps Michigan State as they've basically had to realign their focus as that this is their top rival once again. And look, 20 years ago, nobody could see that really coming. I don't think that it helps Michigan to hide their feelings. They seem to play like this is the biggest game on their schedule. I don't know why they can't kind of outwardly say that they all count one, but some mean a little bit more, and this is one of those that means more.
John, for you, let's talk about the play of Cassius Winston. Is there any argument he's the Big Ten Player of the Year?
I don't think so, especially now that as the season gets to crunch time, there's even more on his shoulders. He's trying to help navigate a team that's lost 2 starters and 2 really good ones. Sunday was a different game for Winston. He only took 3 3-pointers. He was on the foul line 14 times, 27 points, and 8 assists is fantastic to only 3 turnovers. So we're getting now to where the counter's about to turn to March. Most of the hay is in the barn for Big Ten Player of the Year. I think that he will probably end up being named as such.
How good is Cassius Winston, in your opinion? Do you think he's a pro?
I think he's going to be a pro basketball player. I'm not sure where yet, and I think part of that really depends on whether he returns to play Michigan State next year. I would assume that he could only help his case. I do think he's a pro. He's got a very high basketball IQ. He has room to improve, and I don't see anything but improvement really from day one that he's arrived at Michigan State. That not everybody necessarily can say that. I do think he's a pro. I don't know at what level he's a pro, but I do think he's a pro. If he starts playing pro ball in Europe, that doesn't mean that he's not necessarily going to end up in the NBA one day. Look at Kalen Lucas right now. Obviously, Charlie Bell is the story that everyone refers to in the past, and I believe that Winston is probably a pro. I believe he'd probably be a guy coming off the bench, but I don't think that is guaranteed. He's going to have to continue to work and earn it. There are very few of those NBA jobs. There just aren't very many for how many players play and how many play, even at a very high level of college basketball.
Kenny Goins, in my opinion. Now listen, I think Cassius Winston is the best player on the team. Best player. I absolutely love Cash. I think he's the best player on the team. But if I was voting today, and I do get a vote for MVP, man, I've got to take a long, hard look at Goins, don't I?
Yeah, it's value. The value is really, really strong. 7.5 points a game, 9 rebounds a game, 2.5 almost assists a game. That is real value. He's got value really on both ends of the court. He's got value from the left side of the court to the right side of the court. And this element that he's got, it's not that he's just out there jacking threes, but the fact that he can hit a three when he's open is really one of the things that makes him offensively more valuable than he was maybe a couple years ago. Maybe he's like, hey, I just didn't get a chance to shoot it. Well, that may be true, but there's a real value in Goins. It's an intangible value. It's a basketball IQ value, and it's one that you can see when you watch Michigan State play. You don't even need to look at the stats to see how valuable that guy is to the other 4 guys on the court at the same time.
Totally agree. John, let's talk about Matt McQuaid. This is another guy, just continues to make the big shots, but he's a defensive shutdown genius. Your thoughts on McQuaid?
Didn't see that coming when he got to Michigan State. I wouldn't have expected this is going to be a guy that's going to turn into a fantastic fantastic defender. What you did see was that's a really good-looking shooting stroke, and it looks like he's going to hit some three-pointers, and you could kind of see it when he started. So this is an evolution. This is really something else, that he is kind of the guy that Michigan State turns to affect the offense that the other team is running. His defense has been what has stood out more than almost anything. It's almost a bigger deal than his three-point shooting. That is just something that has to come about with work. I don't think it comes naturally, especially to a guy that's just 6'4" and 200 pounds. That's not Shaquille O'Neal or Manute Bol automatic natural defensive force. Here's an opportunity to lead with defense. McQuaid is doing that. As long as he can keep doing it, stay out of foul trouble, Michigan State may be more difficult to beat than people think when they show up there and they say, okay, no Langford, no Nick Ward, this is not going to be that bad. Part of the reason they're tougher, part of the reason Michigan struggled, of course, was the defense of Matt McQuaid.
I want to ask you about Nick Ward. Now, you and I both like Nick, so this is nothing personal. I don't know if you saw Stephen Bardo on the Big Ten Network talking about Michigan State is better off with Xavier Tillman in the starting lineup ahead of Nick Ward. No one thinks this team is better off without Nick, but Bardo and myself included think they are better with Xavier Tillman starting. Your thoughts?
Well, that may be temporarily. That's the question. Is this for good or just for right now? The first few games after Ward is out, teams are going to have to figure out what to adjust and how to handle Michigan State. Is that going to be the same when you get into the tournament play? I don't think so. By then, they're probably going to have it figured out. So it's possible that could be the case. I believe that we're not going to know probably until we get into the Big Ten tournament, because there's a great chance that Big Ten tournament play, Michigan State is going to play another team that they have played since Ward has been out. So I understand the premise. It may be true. I just don't know yet if it's true for good or if it's just true for right now.
Give me the one player you got to see more of for this team to do a lot.
For this team to do a lot, I think we've got to see something from somebody that we haven't seen a ton from yet. Aaron Henry or Gabe Brown, if I could divide those in two, are probably the guys that we would need to see more from. I've seen a ton from Arns, and I hope that he can feel better and get healthier, and I think that his production will come right back. We've seen a little bit of Kithier to know there's some upside there. There's some plays that can be made. I would need to see something from a guy that we haven't seen a ton from yet, who's pretty clearly going to be in the rotation. So I will divide that in two with Aaron Henry and Gabe Brown. What can Michigan State get out of them? Can they put in 5 to 10 points a game? I don't know. Those are the two guys I'm looking for.
He is the one, the only, the legendary Spartan Nation senior writer, John Schopp. We'll be back. Writer John Schopp.